I am seeing a lot of comments referring to Dr. Price's teaching on racism, teaching about color. Now, some of the comments go like this. One of them says, why is he preaching about color? Another one said, I thought we moved past from this. And another one says, it's supposed to be about the Gospels and not about skin color. You know, Dr. Price explained this, why he put this series together, why it was important to him. And remember, he did this back in 98, 97. And he did it on the premise of being led by God. Do you remember that? Do you remember him saying that? He did it on the premise of being led by God to do this. And it took him 3 years to gather information. 3 years to gather this information, and the series itself took 1 year to produce, 1 year to put the content out there, 1 year. And during that time, he lost members of his faculty, he lost members in the congregation. So that was a tough pill to swallow, because from the comments, those who made those same comments, if you were part of the congregation, I'm sure you would have left. See, the thing is, people do not want to hear the truth. People, they don't like having feathers ruffled. People would rather run away from a problem, an issue, rather than tackling it head on. And this is what Dr. Price did. He tackled it head on, whereas no other minister, pastor, whoever would dare to hit on this subject, knowing that the possibility of losing members in their congregation. And we know if you lose members, that means that the money is going to go down. The money is going to go down. But he wasn't afraid of this. And for those who push against this, you know, shame on you and woe to you, because you're about wanting to have this to be swept under the rug. And it's been swept under the rug for many years, many of the things that he's been talking about. But you don't want to bring it to the forefront. You want to be, shh, don't bring that up. Don't bring it up. I'm afraid for the people that they're not going to take this well. Well, isn't that how truth is? You know, truth doesn't go down well with some people because they'd rather hold on to the lie. That's how truth is being treated. This had to be told. This needs to be and will be done again and again and again, as many times as I can, and many times as other people who also feel the need to do this, to bring this forward, to bring truth to light. And yes, it's about the Gospels. It's about Jesus. But remember, Jesus is also about truth. And in order to bring justice to anything, truth has to be told. Truth has to be told. Many things were in the darkness. Many things were hidden. And even today, 30 plus years later, we still grapple with this issue. And you know what? We will always grapple with it because people, now I'm talking to those who made these particular comments, because it's people like you who are just as dangerous as the individuals who perpetuate racism. Now, you may claim that you're not about racism, but you yourselves add to the factors of racism. You add to the layers of racism that it can hide behind, it can hide under. And it's because of you. So therefore, I call you out for who you are, since you don't think this series is necessary, since you don't think this series is appropriate, since you think that we've gotten past racism, that we've gotten past bigotry, that we've gotten past prejudice. We're far from it. Yes, strides have been made, but we're far from it. We are still far from it. We even have many people who call themselves Christians, but yet they are racist, bigoted, and so forth, but they call themselves Christians. So, yes, this series needs to be shown over and over and over again, because you're not going to get it in the history books. You're not going to get it in the schools. You're not going to get it in the colleges. Especially to this degree, this level, you're not going to get it. So again, I thank Dr. Price for this. It's eye-opening, and it needs to be taught year-round, really. So if you don't like it, if you think that it's out of order, fine. That's your opinion. That's your opinion. Now here's Dr. Price.
I received a letter. This is a positive letter. You asked the congregation in your lesson last Sunday, what did we do to deserve this? Now, I really didn't ask the question as a question that I wanted to get an answer to. You know what I mean? We went through a lot of stuff, and then I said, now, what in the world? Why is everybody against the black folks? It appears. We know everybody's not, but it appears that such a large segment, they're against the blacks. And so we wondered, what in the world? And I just made this statement, what in the world have we done? Well, that was not a question. I wasn't saying that as a question. But this person took that as apparently that I was asking a question. In other words, I was trying to seek actual knowledge of why. All right, now listen to this now. You asked the congregation in your lesson last Sunday, what did we do to deserve this? Referring to the institution of slavery in America. Your answer was nothing. To an extent, I disagree with you. This enslavement of the black race was a horrid happening. I am by no means attempting to justify it. I do, however, believe there is a biblical reason for its existence. Ham, one of Noah's sons, is the ancestor of the black race, correct? Ham's offspring inhabited the land of Egypt, Psalm 105:23, and Psalm 78:51. The children of Israel, descendants of Abraham, were wrongfully enslaved by the Egyptians. Therefore, Israelites were wrongfully enslaved by the ancestry of the black race. God promised Abram that those who cursed him, Abram, would be cursed. Genesis 12:3, Numbers 24:9. That which a man sows, that shall he also reap. Proverbs 11:18, Galatians 6:7 and 8. And the sins of the fathers are visited upon the son. Exodus 34:7, Jeremiah 32:18. Is it then possible that the enslavement of the black race in America came as a result of our ancestry's trespasses against the Israelites? We know we are Christians. We know we as Christians are redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Yet the majority of the Africans, as I understand it, were demon worshipers when they were taken from their land 200 years ago. Therefore, they had no protection from the recompense of their forefathers' sin. I'll be awaiting your response. Sincerely, Edward H. Tett III, 10845 Leffingwell Road, Norwalk, California, 90650. Now, listen, I appreciate the letter because the brother is thinking, and that's what I want. And I'm not offended by the letter. He's asking some questions and asking, is it possible that thus and so? Well, to that I would have to say, in other words, the black race in America were put in slavery because of what our black Egyptian forefathers did to the Israelites. I disagree with that, and here's why scripturally. Exodus, see, now the brother gave as one of the scriptures, Exodus 34:7. Well, apparently he didn't read all of the verse. Exodus 34:7. Let's read that. It says, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and the children's children to the third and the fourth generation. Notice it didn't say anything about the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 100th generation. We way down the list on them generations. Okay, now that's not the only place. Go to Exodus, the 20th chapter. Back up to the 20th chapter of Exodus. Exodus 20:5. It says, you shall not bow down to them. Now, this is right in the context of the 10 Commandments. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. So I could agree that perhaps the third and fourth generation might have some problems because of their parents. And that's pretty closely even to what we have today, in the sense that something that I do, let's say what I can do right now, can affect my son. And like I have married daughters and they have children, so they're my grandchildren. So I guess my children would be the first generation. Would that be right? Would that be the right first generation? Then their children would be second generation. Then their children would be the next generation, right? Well, see, I could do something and bring reproach upon my children, first generation children, and then their children. They could get a bad name or bad reputation or some bad people coming against them because of what their father does. Suppose I go out next week, I get caught in a motel with a woman, and they put me on CNN and all the rest of the news. It's going to be an embarrassment. My children will be embarrassed, and their children would be embarrassed. Isn't that right? I could see that. But when we get down to the fifth generation, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, and ninth, 10th, and the 25th, and the 35th, and the 100th generation, man, I'm a long ways from Abraham. So we are a long way. Even 1619 was a long way from Abraham. That was 1600 years after Christ. And Abraham was a bunch of years before Christ. So I wouldn't think that this idea of the iniquity of the fathers, first, second, and third generations, or second, third generation, would work. Then there's a third reference. Let's go to this, Numbers chapter 14. Now we understand and know that sin, as sin, is behind all evil. You know what I mean? But just to say arbitrarily, and the person is not saying that, he's really asking a question, is it possible that that could be so? Well, I don't think so in the light of this. Numbers 14 and verse 18 says, the Lord is long-suffering and abundant in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he by no means clears the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. So there's three references that talks about the fourth, third, and fourth generation. So I wouldn't think that it would happen because of what our so-called Egyptian ancestors did to the Israelites. Beside that, check this out. Beside that, to my knowledge, The Egyptians did not call themselves one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. I do not hear the Egyptians in their constitution saying that all men have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I don't find the Egyptian dynasties or any of the pharaohs claiming to be born again, filled with the Spirit, and reading the Bible. That makes a big difference. And then, if that's the reason why black people would be possibly in bondage because of what our Egyptian ancestors did to the children of Israel, then what about the German people? Who's taken the German folk into slavery? They did some horrendous things against the Jews. And that hadn't been 1,600 years ago. Huh? So if that's true, then we got to look for the Germans to be carried away into slavery. And beside that, even if God did visit the iniquity of the children of the fathers unto the second or third or fourth generation of children, I doubt seriously if God would use a so-called Christian nation to do it. I could see some heathen nation who doesn't believe in Jesus and has not accepted Christ. I could see them taking black folk, or anybody for that matter, or we're talking about black folk because of what our ancient ancestors did, and putting them in bondage and slavery. But the slavery of the black man in America was under the auspices of the so-called church. God could not use the church and the Bible, his own word, that tells us that we're free, that everybody's free in Christ, and then use that same Bible to put black folk in bondage. I don't care if they were heathens, and I don't care if they did believe in all kind of demons and whatever. That's the whole idea of sending out missionaries into all the earth to preach the gospel so that they can come out of that darkness. Everybody before Christ came, all of them were in darkness. All the black folk, the red folk, brown, yellow, and black, they were all in darkness, and they were all worshiping pagan gods. So what's that got to do with anything? Okay? So, but I appreciate the brother's proposition of questions, and I wouldn't argue about it. But I do think that I needed to clarify that we did not come into slavery because God put us in there, and God was punishing us for the sins of our forefathers. There's no way God is going to use His Son Jesus Christ to put us in bondage. Because even after some of the slaves had accepted Christ, based on the knowledge that they had, the slave owners still mistreated them, still raped their women, still sold their children, and still beat them to death in many cases. So there's no way that God would kill his blood-bought children through slavery. See, that don't compute. That bird won't fly. That fish cannot swim. And that dog refuses to bark.
Okay, I'm going to give you my take on why I think black people have been persecuted so much. Black people have been the target of racism. Now, and this goes in line with what Dr. Price has been saying in this series. Okay, you ready for it? It's because we are the blueprint. We are the original. We are the template. So therefore, if we being the template, why not? Why not for the devil to pick at us? I know some of you may be thinking, oh, that sounds preposterous. But think about it. Think about it. If we being the blueprint for when God made everything, when God made man, when being dark skinned, okay, if we be the blueprint, then why not? And it makes sense, really. It makes sense. From the start of time up until the slave days of the United States, black people were never targeted for racism like the genesis of racism in the United States. So think about it. It's like Satan said, okay, what a grand opportunity to get back at the blueprint, to get back at the origin of man, so to speak, and to come at us with racism. Think about it. Just think about it. Think about it. Had you ever thought about it before like that, in that manner? Just give you something to think about. You know, I must say this again, and I'll leave you with this word. Let's go to Luke chapter 12, verse 2. Luke 12 and 2. And it says, "For there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, nor hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatever you have spoken in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear in inner rooms will be proclaimed on the housetops." In other words, what was hidden in racism comes to light. Truth will always come to light. Truth will always come to the forefront. And this is what Dr. Price spoke on, the truth. Again, some of you don't like it. That's fine. That's your opinion. But he has spoken truth. And he did it under the premise of God. And I have one more for you, Psalms 34 and 13. Psalms 34 and 13. It says, "Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit." And again, that's what's happened with racism. There's evil, there's deceit. Again, as you've checked out this series and continue to watch it over in the coming videos or whatever, notice how much evil and deceit that were thrown at black people. Notice. Again, truth comes to the forefront. Truth. That's what this is all about, truth. And truth always lines up with the Bible. Enough said.